Hey guys, I'm Steph from cheapskatecook.com, and today we are talking about grocery budgets because that's an area that a lot of us struggle in, how to make a grocery budget that works for us and our particular family. So the first struggle that we have when it comes to making a grocery budget that helps you save money and eat healthy is, where do you even start? How do I decide what a reasonable budget is for me at this particular time? That problem can be solved really easily by just an internet search. All you do is hop online and Google grocery budgets in my area. It's really easy. It's all it takes. So the idea is that you find what is the average grocery budget in your area, and then that just gives you a springboard to consider, what that cost of living is. We live very close to a city, so we actually Googled what the cost of living is for our city. And if you live in a rural area, you should probably just Google what the average is for the particular state that you live, and that will give you a more accurate idea, because obviously the cost of living for people living near a city is going to be higher than people living in a rural area. So that's how you figure out where to start with your grocery budget. You can also look at the SNAP benefits in your area for a family of whatever your family size is. So that's where we have started a lot, because I figure they've already gone through and calculated what a good frugal budget is for that area. And then that gives me a place to start and just reasonable expectations for our grocery budget while we're trying to save money and eat healthy at the same time. We don't always follow those numbers. It's very important to find a number that works for you, but that gives you a place to start. The next thing you want to consider is you. You are a unique person living in your own space in the world, and you have different demands on your time and different creative energy, and so you need to consider you and your family, because what works for your next door neighbor is not going to necessarily work for you. So for example, you need to consider how much time you have. Someone who is working outside the home, you've got both parents working outside the home, you've got kids in after-school activities, you've got kids going to school, you've got some going to daycare. Your time is very precious. And so if you're trying to save money and eat healthy, then you're going to have to be very strategic in the way that you figure out what your grocery budget is going to do. If you are a family where one parent is staying at home, then I won't say that you have more time, because we all know that that's not true. However, you probably have a little more control over your time. So rather than needing to punch the clock from 9 to 5, then you can probably figure out something throughout the day that you can do to help contribute to the income by making it stretch. That's what we did when we had our first child and we decided to try me staying at home. Then I found that since I wasn't contributing to the income anymore, I could contribute it to it by saving money, making sure that it went further than before. It's not always easy. You have to get creative. You have to figure out what works for you, but that is your power in that particular scenario. So the other thing to consider is your income, and that obviously that's something to consider. So if you have a really large income, then it's going to be a little easier to save money than if you have a smaller one. And that's, again, if one of you is at home, then you can contribute to the income by saving money, finding ways to save money, because you have a little more control over your schedule. And just give yourself grace in this area. Maybe it's just a really tight season where your income is just like, you've got your needs and you've got your income, and they're just too similar. And so give yourself grace, give yourself time. We have gone through times where our needs exceeded our income. You just need to be very diligent in your budgeting and making sure that you are communicating constantly. And that's a whole nother scenario. But it's very easy when we're talking about grocery budgets to play the comparison game. And so I want to encourage you that if you are comparing yourself to other people when it comes to grocery budgets, then just be really careful with that and remember that you are a unique person in a unique scenario, and what works for one person doesn't always work for the other. So the other thing I want you to consider is if you even like cooking, because there's no shame in not liking cooking. You're watching someone called the Cheapskate Cook. That doesn't necessarily mean that I love cooking all the time, because it gets exhausting. Maybe you don't like cooking, but you're just trying to find ways to save money and eat healthy. And so you can find ways to really shortcut the cooking so that you are putting food on the table, but you don't have to go and be super creative in the kitchen. The reality is that while I enjoy cooking, I find it exhausting over time because my kids eat so much and it's just always the cooking. My sister-in-law actually said that I should have called this place the lazyhealthycook.com, because most of my things that I do is just out of pure laziness. Like, here's the simplest, easiest way to do this, and that's what I go with. So if you don't like cooking, you have to consider that in your grocery budget, because if you sign yourself up for cooking everything from scratch, you're going to burn out and not enjoy the process. And so just keep that in mind. The other struggle that we have is keeping track of the budget. Especially if you have two people shopping, that can be very difficult to navigate. And I've got two answers for you, and one of them is cash. So we used a cash grocery envelope for years. And honestly, we didn't start out using cash. We started out just, trying to keep track using our debit card. And it was difficult for me because I'm not a numbers person, and mental math is really my failing. And so it was very hard for me to know consistently how much money I had whenever I went into the grocery store. And really the answer was usually zero, because we had $25 a week and it was ridiculous. But when we started taking out that $25 in cash and keeping it in an envelope, it felt like we had a pay raise. It was so great. So try cash if you are struggling in that area. Also try an app. We use YNAB. You can also use EveryDollar. There's lots of apps out there for keeping track of grocery budgets. So the only thing is you have to be intentional about it, and if you are trying to save money and eat healthy, you are probably already taking intentional steps. But those are my favorite resources. We use EveryDollar, and then we just use straight up cash. I hope this helps. I hope this gives you a little bit of encouragement in the season, and thanks for joining me.